welcome. Today we're going to be making a calculator, and the required materials there's no special materials we need today. We're not going to actually be wiring anything up. It's all going to be 100% coding. Of course, we need the Arduino and an IDE. So let's open one up. Here we go. This one's all ready to go. And there's two new lines of code I'm going to be introducing to you today. And they're pretty useful. It allows the user to interact with your program. Instead of your program just running on its own, it'll actually pause. You can get it to pause and wait for user input to change or add something to the program, and then the program continues and uses that input, which is kind of nice. So we'll be inputting, we'll be entering in some numbers in this case, but we could enter in whatever you want. Alright, so we're going to be using a calculator, so we're going to be entering in some numbers. And you should have already learned about serial print, but I will give you some reminders of that as we work through it. I'm going to get rid of a few of these comments that it always starts with, at least when I use the Microsoft Store Edition. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now when I start building my programs, I've seen some people that seem to know what they're doing really well, and they can just start from the top and just continue on to the bottom. I kind of have to start in the middle, kind of think about what it is I'm trying to do, and kind of work outward. So we're going to work that way. So for example, I want to open up the serial monitor so I can get input. They're going to type into, I get it open. It's unhappy with me because I haven't set up, my Arduino's not even plugged in, so I'll come back to that. We'll talk about that in a minute. But we're going to open up the serial monitor, have it work for us, and we're using 9600. Matter of fact, I probably ought to say a word about this. I just plugged in my Arduino, so I'm going to check my port. We're going to go to 20. I always pick the biggest one. If it doesn't say, sometimes it'll say COM2 and then Arduino Uno, or sometimes it'll just say COM and give you some choices. I always pick the biggest choice. I found that COM1 never works, as an example. Alright, so now we open this up, and I've got a previous program in that Arduino, and it just immediately started working. But that's alright. What I wanted to show you though was down here, the baud rate. This is telling us how fast we're going to be sending information, and this is bits per second if I recall, and we just got to make sure it matches the baud rate here, and the default is 9,600 bits per second, so we're just going to leave it with that. And let's start off with under setup telling the user what this little program is all about. So we're going to send them a little message. I'm going to do print line LN because I want it to look nice to the user so they can easily figure out what it is that I'm requesting from them. So this is going to be a little calculator. So I'm not sure how redundant we need to be. Maybe just tell them what this calculator does. It's a very unique calculator. It'll, in our case, we're going to have it measure the volume of a cylinder. And you can have it do whatever you'd like, but I'm going to have it calculate the volume of the cylinder. So let's say something like this program or calculator will calculate the volume of a cylinder. Of course, the point of this is to show you how we can get information from the user and use it inside of our program. Alright, so that'll show up one time because it's under void setup, and it'll say this program will calculate the volume of a cylinder, and then it'll skip down with the LN here. It means it'll skip down to the next line, and otherwise if you got rid of it, and we put something else up here, another serial print line, it'll start it right after that period, and then it'll be confusing. Alright, so we've told them what this program does. Man, let's just preview this just briefly. It wants me to save it. This is also good practice. probably maybe a little early to do this. Because of the delay it's causing here, but why not? Just every once in a while, it's good practice to just load your program. It got rid of the old one that was on it, if nothing else. And there it is in my serial monitor. It's telling me what this program does. All right, looks good. Okay, so now let's ask it for some more information. Let's see. Let's ask it to input the radius, and we'll need it to input the length of our cylinder. If I recall, the volume of a cylinder is pi r squared times the length. I should probably double check that, but I think that is the volume. I'll flip this open real quick. Volume, cylinder, and you probably might want to do the same thing. What I mean by that is once you've built mine, I'm encouraging you to change your program and customize it so it calculates something else. Alright, so I'll flip this back over. It is volume equals pi times r squared times h, the height of the cylinder. Okay, so let's ask for the radius first. So we'll say enter the radius of the cylinder, and we could ask for units, but I think we'll just not worry about that. Let's just let them put in any unit they want, and we'll assume that they're putting in units that make sense. I mean, if they're using a metric system, all their units are in meters or centimeters or something. But we're not going to worry about that. So we just asked the user to enter the radius of the cylinder, and now we've got to pause and wait for it to do that. If we were to upload this right now, it'll just keep doing this loop, and it'll just, matter of fact, we'll show you that too. That's one thing I like. I keep mentioning this about programming is you're doing just lots of little experiments to figure things out. So there's our, actually it left fast. Her first statement, this program will calculate the volume. That went gone in a hurry, and now it's just repeating this loop over and over again, asking us over and over. So we needed to pause, and this is the new piece of code, and it's while serial.variable, spell right, two equal signs. We need to talk about that a little bit. If there's two equal signs, let me give you an example of this. The difference between me setting up a variable that is, say, ham. I'm setting up a variable, calling it ham, and I'm saying it's an integer. So when the program looks at this and it sees ham, it won't know what it is. But so if I declare it at the beginning as an integer, it'll expect ham to be some number, and I can assign it now to be a number or later on. So let's say I say number 12. We usually have been doing this to assign it a pin number. That's a 1 equal. We're saying ham is equal to 12. 2 equals means we're going to check. We're checking to see if one thing is equal to another thing. That's the difference between 1 equal symbol and 2 together. So we're going to do a little checking here. This is what's going to hook it up. It's going to look for something, and it's not going to find anything until we enter some numbers in. And let's finish this off. So it's just going to wait. And then after it waits, you're going to enter something in, and hopefully that's a number. So we need to grab that number and store it as a variable. And I don't want to store it as ham. Let's store it as radius. And I don't want to assign it a number because the user's going to tell me the number. In just a moment, let me get rid of that, and let me get rid of this. Okay, semicolon at the end. It's kind of like the period, saying we're done with this line. Let's go to the next one. All right, here we go. So this time around, we're going to let's do radius first. This is what we're assigning. They're going to give us a value, and we want to assign it as radius. So then we're going to, this is how we get the number, parse int. And what this means is, you'll see the word serial a lot. It's a way of communicating, sending information one bit at a time in order, as opposed to sending things in parallel. The parse int, parse means we're reading our integers. We're looking at a sentence and looking at the pieces one at a time, and we're going to read those. In our case, it's a number we're going to read, and we're going to store it as radius. That's what this line means. Okay, so let's pause and actually just have it show us what we've done so far. We're just going to have it print that stored number. Let's upload this. Let's take a look at it, see everything's working properly. Okay, this program will calculate the volume of a cylinder. That looks great. There's no space in between here and the next line. If we don't like that, that mildly irritates me. If I wanted to add a space in between these two, let's go ahead and do that while I'm looking at it. Got to help our user out as much as possible. We're going to put in nothing, just a empty line, and we'll tell it to go to the next line. We're going to print nothing on this line, and then with the ln here, we're going to jump to the next line. So that'll take care of a little gap here to make it just look a little nicer. You won't worry about restarting the program to look at it right now. Then it says enter the radius of the cylinder, and it's waiting. So I'm going to enter in 10. I enter 10 on the keyboard, and I'm hitting enter. We'll see what happens. Nice. So it showed us what that value was, and then it's saying doing exactly what it's supposed to do. Enter the radius of the cylinder. And so it's printing this out, asking the user something on the serial monitor, and then it's waiting. We inputted the number 10. It reads 10, stores it as radius, and then we're printing it out. Once it does that, it goes back to the top of the loop and asks us again. So we haven't done anything useful with the number they gave us, but just kind of showing you how these two new lines work. It's possible that you're using this program and it's showing you, I don't know quite how to simulate this. Actually, let me try the end result. You could be on new line. I'm trying to troubleshoot even though I'm not there looking over your shoulder as you're doing this. Let me see if I can get this to mess up. How if I just enter 10 again? Let's see if I get it to, oh, there it goes. Okay, very good. So I just tried it again, the program. I entered 10 in, and then I got enter the radius, and then all of a sudden a 0 appeared. So this might happen to you. Quick solution is to go down here and do no line ending. You got some choices here. I won't weigh you down with what these mean at the moment. We'll discuss that in another video, but switch to no line ending, and it'll take care of that problem. Try it again, and there it goes. All right, looks good. Let's get rid of that. Now we need to ask for the length or height of our cylinder. So let's go ahead and do that. We want the program to wait for us while the user inputs something. Actually, we need to tell the user, first off, what it is we want to have them input. So let's do that. This time we want them to enter in the length of the cylinder. Typing too fast. That's okay. Enter in the length of the cylinder, and then we want it to wait. Just stop and wait till the user enters something. So we're going to put in this little bit of code. Wait, look for a 0, and then empty brackets because we don't want it to do anything with that while statement other than do nothing. And then we're going to store this. What they give us as length, we're going to store as a new variable, so we have to declare it. And let's call it length. That's pretty obvious. Notice that length changed colors. So apparently, length means something to the program, and we're going to confuse it, I believe. If we keep the word length, it'll assume it means something else. I don't know exactly. We could look this up to see what that means to the program, but we're going to not use length. We could use height. Height looks good. I don't see any color change. Awesome. I don't want to use a word that it thinks has some other already predefined meaning. We want a word that means something to us, but the computer doesn't know what it means, and we're going to tell it that it means it's an integer, and then we're going to assign a value to it, which we'll do right now. So height is going to equal what they input, which is a serial parse int. That looks good. And now we have to do something with the radius they gave us and the height they gave us. Now this is the actual calculator part. We're going to have it calculate the volume. So we need another variable called volume, which will be the final answer. So we're going to declare another variable that the computer doesn't know what it means. Now this time around, we could use int for integer again, like the other two, but it might be, you could probably use an int, but let me show you another data type. I think we're fine with int, but this is a good opportunity to show you that there are other different kinds of data types besides integers. For example, float. If we think that our answer might be, matter of fact, we definitely want to use float because we're going to use pi, and pi is 3.1415 and so on. It's not an integer, so when we calculate volume, we're going to get something that's not an integer. And if I recall, the computer, what will it do? I think it'll probably round our number up to the, I don't know if it rounds up or down, but I think that's what it will do if our volume, if we say it's an int, if we say, and this would be another little experiment, would be kind of cool. I mean, we can look something up, but I like doing little experiments. So if I, for example, did int, and then I had my little formula we'll type out in a minute, and we say it's an integer, I think it would store the value as, I'm really curious to see what it would do with that. We'll come back. But I don't think I explained totally what float means. Float means that the volume is going to be a decimal number, which is what we really need, but we're going to flip it to int for now. And we might need a little formula, so we're going to need radius times. We do not want to be using parentheses. Parentheses, typically the computer is expecting us to put in some sort of value in here. It's a parameter it's looking for. So in your math class, you might be thinking we need to get some parentheses in there. We're going to use that symbol for multiply, so it's radius squared, or radius times radius, times pi. Pi capitalized is, we can type in the number if we want, but if you type this in, notice it changes colors because it recognizes it, knows what that is. That's 3.1415. I'm not sure how many digits it keeps. Probably some bytes worth full or something like that, I'm not sure. And then what else we need to do? Pi r squared times the height. So that looks pretty good. This gives us, double check this, this gives us the area of the circle, and then we're moving that area through the height of the cylinder, and we're going to store that as volume. We've declared variables for each one of these new words that it doesn't know what they are. So that looks pretty good. All right, so let's take a look at what we get. I'm going to use ln a lot because I want it to constantly jump down. Let's try to make this look neat. Let's do the volume of the cylinder is, a couple spaces. Actually, you know what? I'm saying LN. I don't want an L in there because I want to put the answer at the end of this and not jump down to a new line. That'll look nicer for the user. So we're going to do this. And we're going to enter in the word volume. That looks pretty good. And then let's jump down. If we put something else in after this, it'll jump down to new line. So it'll print this out. The volume of the cylinder is. It will not jump down the next line. It'll look here and say, okay, we'll put volume. We'll put volume right at the end of this, right here. And we are doing a little experiment to see where we're going to end up with a decimal value. We want to see if it rounded. Let's just trying to anticipate something. Let's just go ahead and go for it. We can fix things if we have problems. And problems are always nice because you get to watch me fix them. We learn a lot from the errors we make. In fact, I should probably intentionally make errors or something. This program, okay, good, good. Enter the radius. Let's just do 10 again. That's the radius. Enter in the length of the cylinder. Let's do 10 again, make math easy. And we got 3,141. So it did what I thought it would do, which was to just eliminate the decimal portion. And if we're okay with that, we can leave this as an int, and it'll output as an integer. I'm not too happy with just visually having everything kind of mushed next to each other. I'd like to see some more gaps. Where would I like to see a gap? I think after, let's just throw a gap, several of them in here to space this out. I like little spaces in here. Makes it visually a little more interesting. I don't know if I like this space or not. I think it's fine. And let's switch back to decimal values. So, all right, so a little cleaning up. We're going to switch this to float. And we wanted some space. That's the end. So once it's done, it's going to wrap back to the beginning. So let's do a little space here. Jump to new line. Fix my typos. This is nice because the color changes that it makes, it kind of helps me out. If I about to make an error, I don't want it to do anything. I just wanted to make an empty line. We could probably throw in another one. It says that it's asking for stuff here. We could probably do it after it says this. It says the value right underneath it. That was okay. Maybe right here would be maybe a good spot for one more little space. And let's throw that in there, of course. I think that'll clean things up a little bit. All right. We are just about done. This program, blah, 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 enter the radius of the cylinder. Let's do 10 again. 10. Got some spaces in there. And it kept the decimal portion of our value. So it looks more like a calculator output. Right, all those trailing numbers. So I like that. Okay, so 2 challenges for you. If you got the time, I'd highly recommend. This portion, of course, is what I'd be looking for, that you solve this. But I'd be really impressed, and let me move that over there for a minute, okay? I think it'd be really cool if you would modify your program so that it calculates something else. I don't care what you choose. Perhaps you could go, let's go back online for a minute. I don't care if you're just adding 2 numbers. See if you can figure out how to do that. Perhaps so we could do formulas. Let me just grab some images here. I'm just looking for some formulas you might encounter in your math class. That took me nowhere. I know you can't see this. I would need to make sure I don't just accidentally throw something up there that I don't want you to see or shouldn't see. That's not a good one either. People are trying to sell me stuff. A non-place where they're not selling me stuff. That one looks pretty good. Okay, let's swing this back over. Something like this I looked up. It gives me lots of little formulas for different geometric shapes. Maybe you could pick one of these and have your calculator solve one of these, or anything else you might want to come up with. If you want to get super clever, have them input 3 things if you'd like, and then put all that into your formula and have it calculated. Or you could delete this and have a calculator that does 2 different types of things. Calculates the volume of the cylinder, and maybe you jump down here and have it calculate maybe the volume of a pyramid or something. I'll leave that up to you, but that would be pretty cool if when I check this off that you've made modifications to this, customized it, and then showed it to me. So I think that wraps it up. Got some good useful lines of code here, and we look forward to the next build.